And on today's show, changing the brand of financial services. Part one of this week's interview with nationally recognized industry consultant, platform speaker, and author of Living a Life of Significance, Joe Jordan. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and Innsmouth. Let's get down to business. Well, I want to welcome Joe Jordan onto our set, and of course, Joe, thank you for coming. And you have a really great book out called Living a Life of Significance. You can order it right on his website, it's in the lower third. And Joe, I've heard you speak, I'm going to say 4 times in the last 18 months. Joe, I keep hearing about you saying that we need to change. I need to know, why did you come to this? You've been in this business for 40 years. You've been an expert in our field. Why do you see as changes so necessary? And it sounds like it's not a small adjustment. It sounds like we need an overhaul.
No, it's a pretty significant one, Steve, and I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about it. One thing I want to do is preface my comments so that everyone gets an idea about it, okay? I don't talk about the normal financial services talk. I don't deal with that, okay? But I do deal with something that I think especially reps who sell in this marketplace will find important, because I'm really going to talk about you and how you feel about what you do. Now, it's not a pep talk, okay? I deal with the 3 major issues that all financial services concerns have, individuals and companies. The first is to increase per rep. If you increase per rep, to you out there who are selling, it means you make more money, and I'm sure you want to do that. But just as importantly, for the organizations of which you're part of, or if you work for a company, or you're part of a group, to the extent that you make more money, you stay longer, and that means greater retention. Retention and recruiting is a major expense in this business. And to the extent that that expense can begin to be used for the purpose of being additive versus replacement, it means you grow. The second is to manage to the right mix of business. Now, this is very important, and I want to talk to the reps that are out selling and also all of the organizations that have reps with them. This, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. I mean, let's face it, people in financial services have a tendency to sell what they're comfortable with. If I come in on the investment business, that's what I do. If I'm on the property and casualty business, that's what I do. And the fact of the matter is, on an individual basis and also corporately for big companies, you have clientele that are at risk if you're not taking care of all of their financial needs. This is not a business issue. This is a behavioral and emotional issue. To get sales rep to change their behavior, to begin to look at selling other products that perhaps they're not very comfortable with. This is a major issue. That's some of the things that I really specialize is how can we get people who have a great client base, the ability and the willingness to change behavior so that they can start selling other products, which means greater client retention and absolutely more money for the organizations itself. And doesn't it make sense? Look, just from a business standpoint, individual or company, doesn't it make sense to have a diversified revenue stream, that you're not overly dependent on one particular product or not? So it's a sound business reason for them to look at that. And the third is talking about creating a culture that celebrates the impact that we have on people. Or put another way, it put forward a culture that deals with value and not price. Because there's a lot of companies out there that are just cutting on price. Now that might be why the companies that you guys work for want you to do it. But what I want to challenge you as to why you want to be in this business. So to give you an idea of how I came about these thoughts, you know, we're all going through change, and change can be pretty hairy. But let me tell you a change that we all don't want to experience. I've got listed here the 5 countries that have recently did away with commissions. And the reason they did away with commissions is they looked at our value proposition and they explored it. These are well-meaning regulators, and they said, you know what? We don't think the value proposition bends towards the clients. We think commissions are bad because it creates bad behavior, so they did away with it. I think it's crazy for the society they're in, but they've done that. The point I'm getting at is we have to change the way we do things and the way we're perceived, because these are the types of risks, you know, that we're facing with right now. So that's something that's very crucial, and I think it's important. You also have a book that recently came out. It's called Capital in the 21st Century. This is written by an economist. You know what he's saying? He says that capitalism only makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. There's no trickle down. Then you have Obama, the president of the United States. He's talking about the fact that all of the idea about the fact that there's an imbalance between where people live. So this is a major attack, not just on our business, but capitalism. But one thing I think we all need to keep abreast of is this fact. There has been no creation of mankind that has alleviated more people out of poverty and want than capitalism. China and India over the past 20 years have raised 500 million people out of poverty and want. And so one of the things that we need to do is to focus in on that. And by the way, there's one other critic that popped up. This guy happens to be the Pope. Now, I'm not talking about being Catholic, Christian, or even if you believe in God. This guy is a major voice, all right? He's Time Magazine Person of the Year. He's on the cover of Rolling Stone. When the hell was the Pope on the cover of Rolling Stone? And Fortune magazine in our business said the top 50 leaders of the world, and he happens to be the #1. The point I'm getting at is he's a voice. And the reason we should listen to him is because he's talking about our responsibility to others, to our clients. And we need to make certain that we listen to him and make some changes. So as a result of that, there are some movements in capitalism that you may not know about. There's a guy named John Mackey. He's the founder and he's also the chairman of Whole Foods. He got into a fight with Milton Friedman, and Milton Friedman said the only reason that companies exist is to make money. And he said the only reason, I disagree with that, because the only reason my company exists is to fulfill its purpose. And the purpose of Whole Foods is to make certain that people eat healthy and live longer. And I need profits to do that. What's dramatic about that? He's putting purpose first, profit second. And so I think what's beginning to happen a lot of times in capitalism is finance people are running the numbers and they're not figuring out what they do. And this can happen down at the rep level when you're looking at it. If you chase money, here's the bottom line. If you chase money, you're not going to be able to get it. And to show you that there's proof in the pudding, okay, he wrote this with a professor, and this professor wrote a book, and he talked about firms of endearment. These are firms that are similar, do similar things to what Whole Foods does. The S&P 500 from 96 to 11 was up 6.5%. The firms of endearment were up 21%. In other words, the point I'm getting at to rearrange how we feel about ourselves and what we do is the more client-centric we become, the greater we raise our visibility and what we do for a living. And when we do that and focus in on our purpose, the money comes. And that's really the reason why I think we need to change.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Miss an episode? Just go out to our site, downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. Want to email me? steve@downtobusiness.tv. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. I'll see you tomorrow.